Hello, everyone. Welcome to True Life Stories podcast. I'm your host, Clara Reed. Today, we have a riveting story that dives deep into the complexities of personal relationships. Our story comes from Mark, a man caught in a whirlwind of emotions and tough choices between his current wife and his ex-wife. This heart-wrenching dilemma has left him grappling with deep concern and confusion. Stay tuned as we unravel Mark's story and explore the intense feelings and tough decisions he's facing. Let's dive in. My name is Mark. I'm 42 years old, and I live in California. I've been going through an incredibly confusing time, and that's why I'm sharing my story here. Your advice could be a great help to me. Several years ago, I went through a divorce from my first marriage. At that time, I was the father of 2 children, Emma and Lucas, and the decision to end the marriage was painful and difficult. Emma is now 12 years old, and Lucas is 9. I realize every day how precious they are to me, even after the divorce. Linda, my ex-wife, and I decided that we could no longer be together, but we knew we had to cooperate for the sake of our children. Emma and Lucas are everything to me, and I have devoted myself entirely to them. I take them to school every morning, and on weekends we play sports together or spend time at the park. I would do anything for them as their father. However, after the divorce, my life was filled with deep loneliness and wounds. On days when the kids were with their mom, I often found myself alone at home. In that loneliness, I felt like I had no real friends or anyone to rely on. Then one day, Sarah came into my life. Sarah and I met by chance at a cafe. It was raining that day, and I was sipping coffee, staring out the window as usual. Honestly, my heart was heavy that day too. I was lost in thoughts about the kids and how difficult life had become after the divorce. That's when Sarah walked into the cafe. She shook off her wet umbrella, sat down, and casually started a conversation with me, as if we had known each other for years.
Hey, you looked like you were here alone. Do you mind if I sit here?
Oh, sure, of course, please. Have a seat.
We began talking, and what started as small talk quickly turned into something deeper. Sarah opened up about how she had gone through a divorce herself, and how she had managed to rebuild her life afterward. She spoke candidly about her experiences, and in doing so, she understood the loneliness and pain I was feeling.
I've been where you are, Mark. After my divorce, it felt like everything was falling apart. But even in the midst of that, there's a chance for a new beginning. I hope my experience can help you, even just a little.
Sarah's words were a great comfort to me. She truly understood what I was going through, and she didn't judge or criticize me. Instead, she wrapped my wounds with care and gave me a sense of hope. From that day on, we kept in touch and grew closer over time. Sarah and I dated for a year before we got married. During that time, we shared so many wonderful moments together. My time with Sarah was always filled with joy, and whenever I was with her, all my worries seemed to fade away. One weekend, we decided to take a road trip. We drove along California's beautiful coastal highway and stopped in a small beach town where we had lunch at a quiet little restaurant. There, we lost track of time, talking and getting to know each other even more deeply. Sarah opened up about things she had kept inside for a long time, and I found myself sharing my deepest thoughts and feelings with her as well.
Sarah, being with you makes everything seem right. I feel like I can truly smile again because of you.
That night we sat on the beach, watching the sunset. With the sound of the waves in the background, we held hands in silence. The hope that my future would be bright with Sarah by my side filled my heart. On another occasion, Sarah helped me take care of the kids. Lucas had caught a cold and couldn't go to school. I had an important meeting at work, so I was in a tough spot, but Sarah volunteered to stay with Lucas. That day she made him warm soup and spent the day reading books with him.
Lucas, today I'm your nurse. Just tell me what you need and I'll make sure you're taken care of.
That evening, when I came home to find Sarah and Lucas laughing together, I realized just how much I wanted her to be a part of our family. She genuinely cared for my kids and loved me deeply. One day, Sarah and I had a deep conversation. She told me this.
Mark, I know how great of a father you are. Everything you do for Emma and Lucas is truly amazing. And I love you just the way you are. If we're together, I'll do everything I can to make sure they're happy.
In that moment, I realized that my relationship with Sarah was more than just a romance. It was a deep bond. She filled all the gaps in my life, and I felt hopeful about starting a new life with her. So I proposed to her. Sarah accepted, and we began our life together. However, even after we got married, my relationship with Linda still had a significant impact on my marriage with Sarah. Linda continued to play an important role as the mother of our children, and she frequently contacted me. It was difficult for me to refuse her requests, especially when it came to the kids, but I could sense that this situation was becoming increasingly uncomfortable for Sarah.
Mark, I'm uncomfortable with how much Linda continues to influence your life. We hardly have any time just for us. I want us to spend more time together.
Sarah, I understand how you feel, but Linda is the kids' mom. I want to be there for them whenever they need me.
Sarah nodded, but her eyes were still filled with unease. I could feel that the situation was becoming more complicated. I was caught between Sarah and Linda, and the pressure was growing. The conflicts gradually began to surface. One particular incident that stands out was Emma's birthday party. Linda decided to throw a small family-only party for Emma, excluding Sarah from the guest list. When Sarah found out, she was furious.
She's trying to exclude me, isn't she? She refuses to acknowledge that I'm your wife.
Sarah, Linda probably just wanted to keep it a small family gathering. Emma wanted to spend the day with her family rather than friends.
But I am your family, Mark. She's constantly disregarding our marriage.
I understood Sarah's anger, but I also knew that Linda wanted to keep the birthday celebration within the family. However, I could see the hurt in Sarah's eyes, and I didn't know whose side to take in this situation. The tension between Linda and Sarah didn't stop there. A few weeks later, Lucas had a soccer game, and Sarah and I had planned to watch it together. But that day, Linda also showed up. After the game, Linda approached me and started talking about taking Lucas out for dinner.
Mark, I'll take Lucas with me. We're going out for dinner.
We already have dinner plans. Mark and I made those plans days ago.
Oh, really? Mark didn't mention it to me. Lucas was looking forward to spending time with me tonight.
Linda, maybe we should have discussed this earlier. Let's ask Lucas what he wants to do.
This small conflict only heightened the tension between Sarah and Linda. Lucas looked confused, glancing between both of them, and I felt even more powerless. The ongoing conflict between these two women was starting to affect my children, and that tore me apart. Then one day, Emma's school play was scheduled. Sarah and I had planned to watch it together, and afterward, Sarah had made plans to take Emma for dinner to celebrate. But just before the play began, I received an unexpected call from Linda.
Mark, I left some important documents at the office and need to go back urgently. Can you take Lucas after the play?
All right, Linda. I'll take him after the play.
After the play ended, I explained the situation to Sarah and apologized.
Sarah, I'm really sorry. Linda had an emergency and I have to take care of Lucas. We might have to cancel dinner.
Linda again, right? Mark, we need time together. I'm so tired of her ruining our plans.
Sarah's eyes welled up with tears, and I could see how deeply disappointed she was. Once again, all the plans she had made were disrupted by Linda's demands, and I didn't know how to console her. But because of the kids, I couldn't refuse Linda's request, and I felt an overwhelming sense of helplessness. Sarah initially promised to understand my situation. She knew how much I loved my children and how devoted I was to them. But as time went on, it seemed she could no longer tolerate the situation. On one hand, I felt sad that she couldn't understand me anymore, and on the other, I felt frustrated, even though I understood her position.
Sarah, I remember how much you understood me when we first met. You supported me and promised we would do everything we could for the kids together. But now, it feels like you don't understand me anymore. I'm struggling too.
Mark, I love you, but this situation is too hard for me. Even though I'm your wife, I always feel like I'm second place.
I don't know how to resolve this situation or whose feelings I should prioritize. Sarah promised to understand me at the beginning, but now it feels like that promise is fading, and it breaks my heart. I feel conflicted, torn between my love for Sarah and my need to be there for my children. I've always wanted to be a reliable father for my kids. My commitment to them hasn't changed, but my relationship with Sarah is also important. I want to keep both, but it's becoming harder and harder to find a balance between the two. Every night I lie awake thinking about all of this, unable to sleep. I want to preserve my relationship with Sarah, but I also feel the need to maintain my relationship with Linda for the sake of the kids. What do you think I should do? You've just heard Mark's story. He's facing a tough decision between his current wife and his ex-wife. What would you do in his situation? Should he continue accommodating Linda's requests for the sake of his kids, or should he prioritize Sarah's feelings? Thank you for joining us on True Life Stories podcast today. We hope this episode gave you something to think about. Until next time, remember the importance of balance and love in relationships. I'm Clara Reed, and I look forward to our next episode together. Please share your thoughts in the comments below. Additionally, if you have personal stories or experiences you'd like to discuss, don't hesitate to send them to us via email. We'd love to hear from you and possibly feature your story in a future episode.